Thank you, Kim, for that lovely introduction. She reached out to me and she says, what are you doing when you're not doing chambery things? And so we try to have a little bit of fun with that. So thanks everybody for coming out on a really cold day to come to Rotary Club. And it's great to see everybody. And what I thought I'd do is spend a few minutes just kind of giving you guys some kind of big picture, what's going on at the Knoxville Chamber, talk a little bit about kind of some of the areas of focus that we have, and then I'll get into kind of my swim lane, which is economic development, and talk about some recent wins that we've had in the community, and kind of the pipeline, what the pipeline looks for us from that perspective. So if that sounds good, I'll go ahead and kick it off. It's always good to speak to a group of friends. So this is a lot of smiling faces. All right. So last time I spoke to this group, I think was back in early 2022 maybe, and this was back in November of last year. The chamber released this white paper that we call Transitioning Our Economy for the Imagination Age. And so really you can go online, you can go to knoxvillechamber.com, you can download this report, you can read it, but it really talks about, Knoxville as a community, we've been doing really, really good for a long time. We've never really had where we've hit rock bottom in our community. We're not a one company town. Our economy has always been pretty stable, pretty steady, and that's a good thing. And it really talked about some challenges that we've got in our community. And they're listed up there. One of them is we are behind our peer communities in the average annual pay. The average annual wage in Knox County today is about $59,000 a year. You compare it to Greenville, South Carolina, Huntsville, Alabama, or some other peer cities, we're several thousands, if not 10,000 or above behind those communities. So we've really got to dial up our efforts to make it in that number. Our population is growing. We were just talking up here, Jim and I, about the amazing growth that this community is seeing, and that's great, but we're not growing that key workforce demographic in our region, that 25 to 54-year-old. There's a lot of retirees that are moving into East Tennessee, and that's great. But companies, my swim lane, companies, the first three questions they're asking us are, where are we going to get the talent? Where are we going to get the talent? And where's the talent coming from? So, and you look around the country, those communities that are like in a different orbit, such as Nashville or Raleigh, that's where the talent is. And so we've got to kind of pivot that to continue to make Knoxville super awesome for that workforce demographic. This report also talks about automation. We've had a really strong manufacturing sector in Knoxville for a long time. In fact, if you look at our gross metro product, the biggest piece of that is manufacturing. So there's a lot of companies that are making stuff here. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but automation is going to take away a lot of those numbers of jobs, but the jobs that automation is going to create will be higher tech, higher wage, higher skilled occupations. So that training is super important. So this report also outlines the four things that we really, our chamber team and our community really are diving into. So one is finding those high growth companies. Where do we find that company that might be in a startup mode today, but is maybe interested in locating here, and how do we grow that from 2 jobs to 10 to 50 to 500 jobs over a period of time. High wage talent, really focusing on those companies that are bringing higher wages. So that's one of my first questions when somebody reaches out and says, hey, we're thinking of putting a facility in Knoxville. I was like, well, tell me about your business. Tell me about the types of jobs. Tell me about the wages. And we really like those jobs that are paying above our county average, because again, it moves that needle on the pay. I'll talk about entrepreneurs here in a second, and then that last bullet point, attractive civic furniture. We had a presentation about the baseball stadium in this club a while back. Justin Kazana talking, was that last week? Talking about the real estate market. Civic furniture is cool things that we can use as a community. So baseball stadium is awesome. Expanding the urban wilderness is awesome. Continuing development of the riverfront is awesome. Creating spaces for entrepreneurs to mingle and collaborate. All those things attract young professionals to not only come to school here, but graduate from universities in our area and stay here, more importantly. So If you can't sleep some night, download this report. Great bedtime readings. Another thing we did more recently is we've also released an innovation report. So this is something we're going to be doing on a biannual basis where we're measuring some key performance metrics of our region against several peer regions around the country. So things like how many patents are issued here, how much, what is post-secondary enrollment in key growth, skill sets, engineering, computer science, information technology. How are we doing in those areas compared to some other markets? Where is funding coming from? SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research grants, technology transfer grants at the federal level. Are we getting our fair share of those grants? So, like I said, we'll be tracking this every other year and reporting out to the community. So right now we've got baseline data, and then we'll be back in another year to show what that looks like. So the chamber is set up with various councils. So one of them is what we call the Business Climate Council, and that group is focused on all different types of things. For example, transportation. What's going on with the roads and the highways here in the Knoxville area. We've got choice lanes that are going to be coming down Interstate 40 in 5, 6, 7 years, which will be you can opt to pay to get into that choice lane and zip all the way through Knox County. That's something that the Business Climate Council has been focused on. Land use, huge issue. That's one thing we're not making any more of is land, but how are we going to use that land in the future is critical. Hopefully everyone has heard of or got involved in the Advanced Knox process. That was Knox County's effort to update kind of our 30-year growth plan here over the past couple of years. And so that's really kind of the roadmap that we look at as a community to say, this is where this type of development should land. Housing, where we're way behind the 8 ball on housing. We've got to build more housing, and we've got to build more. I see the realtors in the room shaking their head. We've got to build multi-tenant duplex, quadplexes, higher density housing in this community in order to grow. And then access to childcare is a huge impediment for people to get back to work. So working with partner agencies like the United Way and establishing, micro daycares within specific businesses that maybe you open up a facility that in your business that provides daycare for 2 or 3 or 5 children, but that gets 2 or 3 or 5 back into the workforce, which is critical. Infrastructure, roads, bridges, rail. I'll go ahead and say, everyone always asks, is Southwest coming? The answer is, we hope so. Don't have an answer for that today. Airport growth and airport infrastructure is a huge piece of this kind of community growth puzzle. And, the airport's getting ready to break ground on a lot of new parking and looking really closely at adding more gates. With more gates, which means more airplanes, which means more airlines, which means more direct cities. Right, Terry? All these things go together to help expand our economy. And then broadband, we can't underestimate the importance of access to broadband in this community. And so getting that broadband to every portion of the community, and more importantly, making sure that underserved populations understand what it means. Okay, you might have fiber now in the right of way outside your house, but do you have the equipment to access the fiber? And how do you get on the internet? How do you turn on a computer? If you don't know how to operate a Chromebook, how are you going to apply for a job? So there's a lot of work that we're doing in digital literacy with nonprofit partners to help take digital literacy classes into underserved communities throughout Knoxville. Small business entrepreneurship. So we are at a time now in Knoxville where we've got a tremendous surge of companies that are coming here because of the University of Tennessee's Spark Innovation Center, because of Oak Ridge National Labs Innovation Crossroads program, because of Techstars. We have entrepreneurs from literally all over the country, all over the global companies that are coming here planting a flag for sometimes it's 90 days, sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's a year. It is our job collectively as a community to reach out and welcome those entrepreneurs. So they're looking for capital. They're looking for customers. They're looking for companies to demonstrate their technologies via pilot projects. And so our team and the whole entrepreneur ecosystem around Knoxville is really digging in to help those companies. We've got a tremendous surge of kind of life science biotech companies looking here, advanced energy companies, waste energy companies, energy storage companies. It's a really cool mix of entrepreneurs that we have. One thing that maybe you all hadn't heard about, it was announced a while back, the 865 Opportunity Fund. That was 3 banks locally came together, Regions, Pinnacle, and First Horizon Bank. Each put $2 million into a bucket to offer entrepreneur grants for tech startup companies aimed at women, minority, and veteran-owned businesses. So these are kind of small grants of up to $50,000, but we kept hearing from the startup community that access to capital was a hurdle. So we're trying to remove hurdles to support that growth. So if you ever are interested in learning more about the innovation ecosystem, feel free to reach out to me, because we're always looking for companies and partners for those companies to connect with. I mentioned the importance of talent in workforce. A lot going on in that area. So 865 Academies that Knox County Schools is launching in all of the different high schools that are kind of career-minded academies. The chamber is deeply involved in that and bringing the business community into the school systems and building those bridges between businesses and schools. Internships. So statistics show if somebody comes to your business as an intern, there's like 75% more likely to take a permanent job at that office or business. And so we have put together internship consulting programs for free. So no matter how large or small your business is, you're thinking of maybe trying to dip your toe into what does it mean to have an intern? We've got folks that can help you to deploy those programs and help you get comfortable with that. Home Sweet Career is a program we do in partnership with the University of Tennessee, where we go on campus to various colleges and the student professional associations and really just kind of tell them what's going on in Knoxville. A lot of UT students come here, they go to school, they got their head down, they don't necessarily get out and get plugged into the community so much. So it's one of our jobs is to raise that awareness of community, what are the assets here, and what are the job opportunities in the community. So we've been having fun with Home Sweet Career. And then talent attraction. So there's a website called liferedefined.com that anybody is welcome to use if you're trying to hire talent from out of market into Knoxville. It can help you sell this place called Knoxville to those folks. So cost of living comparison calculators. What are the fun things to do? What are the different neighborhoods around Knoxville? And then we've got a group of volunteers we call the Knoxville Navigators that have volunteered their time to get on the phone or do a Zoom or meet in person with somebody to really kind of help them connect on a personal, one-on-one level with Knoxville. So, okay. So that was a lot of information I threw at you. Are there any questions on any of that before I kind of get to what I call the fun stuff?
What was that website again, please?
Liferedefined.com.
Liferedefined.
Liferedefined.com. Yep. Yes.
A quick question. So what are you seeing as far as the impact on people that are able to work remotely, retain employment in another state? Is that benefiting our community since the businesses aren't coming here for that? How's
Yeah.
that looking? Because I know
Yeah.
we're increasing humans pretty quickly,
Yeah.
but it was my understanding that they're not coming with.
Yeah. So the question is, if you didn't hear it backwards, what's the impact of remote workers, folks that maybe moved to Knoxville, say during the pandemic, and continue to work for a company somewhere else? So yeah, it's definitely made a dent on our housing stock. But we look at that as an opportunity because now there's a lot of folks that are, maybe, working in Cedar Bluff for a company in Palo Alto, but eventually maybe they want to, transfer into other positions within this market. So it's a tough thing to figure out exactly where they are, except kind of anecdotal word of mouth type of things. But yeah, that's been our. Yeah.
last week, we had a commercial realtor tell us that the office space in Knoxville is, I think he said 92% occupied. When you go out to get a business, where do you suggest that they set up shop? Where do they go?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's all project dependent. So, we work closely with the commercial real estate market. Yeah, if somebody needs, 100,000 square foot office, that's gonna be a tough order to fill today. On the industrial side, we've got a few kind of larger buildings that are opening up here in the market, 300,000 square feet, 118,000 square feet. We're always trying to, first, see if, can we fill an empty building, where the infrastructure is already in place. But more and more, the projects that are coming to us are, we need 75 acres, we need 100 acres. It's a massive kind of facility. And so we've got a few spots around the community, Midway Business Park out at exit 402. Mascot, we've got a large industrial piece of land out there that's publicly held. So it's really varied. It's really varied, but yeah, the real estate market is super tight right now. Yeah. All right, so these are just a few recent projects that have landed here, and I kind of like this slide because it's really diverse in terms of the types of companies. So the first project is a company called Hardcoat Technologies, and so if you're driving a Hyundai vehicle, there's a high likelihood that the headlight for that vehicle was coated. They put a protective coating on those lenses before they go up to Clinton, where they're assembled in the headlights. So they do coating of plastics, and they're located right near Pond Gap Elementary. So this is cool because it's a manufacturer in the city of Knoxville, and there's just not a lot of big manufacturers in the city. Most of them are in the county balance. And so they had about 85 jobs and did about a 30,000 square foot expansion of their facility right there on Paper Mill Drive. Local startup company, 10, 12 years ago, it was that guy with the big scissors on the left. It was he and one other person that started that business, and now they've grown to over 100 employees, running multiple shifts and doing great work there. Hitachi Zosen and Nova. So this is a company that's based in Zurich. Their world headquarters is in Zurich, Switzerland. If anybody has an anaerobic digester that converts food scrap to energy, these are the folks that design those systems. Thank you, Bill, for the chuckle. You got my joke. So Hitachi Zosen, they had their North American headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were able to recruit them from Atlanta to Knoxville. So their North American HQ is now out off of Pelican Parkway in Century Business Park. And that's an awesome example of companies coming here because of the talent. So they need engineers, they need engineers that specialize in advanced energy conversion systems. And there used to be a big energy company here called ABB. Then they changed their name to Austin Power, and then Austin left, and now Hitachi has kind of come in to grab some of those folks and keep them in Knoxville and grow that business. So that was a great expansion, and really great paying jobs. Their average wage there is like $120,000 a year at Hitachi Zosen. Sapphire is there's somebody here from UT Research and Economic Development. So Sapphire is a company that was part of the UT Spark Innovation Center. So this company has licensed technology from Oak Ridge National Lab that prevents lithium ion batteries from catching on fire if the battery is penetrated. So that's really important for not only the cell phones and laptops that we're carrying around, but for all the electric vehicles that are driving around. And so this has started very small. They've leased about 500 or 650 square feet, which is not much bigger than maybe 6 of these tables put together, but they've got a research and development lab now at UT's Research Park at Cherokee Farm. And that's the kind of company that we want to get them here, which, okay, we've done that. Now we need to nurture them and help them to continue to grow and go from 8 or 12 jobs to 100 jobs in the next couple of years. So Sapphire was a great project, and we were able to have the deputy director of the Oak Ridge National Lab help with the ribbon cutting on that project on the East campus. And then, CGI, I think I might have talked about this one a while back, but just a reminder and update of where they started. So they came into our community a couple years ago with 0 employees. Today, they're up to about 200 employees. They leased, 2 floors in the Truist Tower in downtown Knoxville. CGI is an international business consultancy firm that's doing software development, app development, data analytics, cybersecurity for clients around the globe. And it's been really fun to watch CGI get plugged in and engaged in the community at many levels. A couple weeks ago, hopefully you saw, we had a groundbreaking and a formal announcement for the expansion of Axle Logistics. That's a huge expansion, 650 new jobs, almost $38 million, building a new 5-story office tower on Central Avenue adjacent to their existing facility. This is to get a company. One, it's 2 homegrown guys from Knoxville started this company. There'll be well over 1,000 employees when they complete this expansion. And they are just grabbing University of Tennessee graduates and keeping them in Knoxville and creating really, really good jobs. So, really can't underestimate the importance of a homegrown company. We've seen that a lot of homegrown, huge companies. This is another one, folks. And then Custom Foods, great expansion going on there. They're up off of Pleasant Ridge Road. If you go to Chick-fil-A and order macaroni and cheese, this is where it's made. As well as food products for restaurants, national chains all over the country. So big expansion, $51 million, and add another 250 jobs to their operation. So another one to be proud of. Again, that's in the city of Knoxville. This is really hard to read, but this is my kind of what I call my pipeline of projects. So our team, we're kind of tracking about 70 different projects right now. If we were to land all of those, that would be like 15,000 additional jobs coming to our community and $6 or $7 billion in new capital investment. We're not going to get all of this. It's my job to make sure we get our fair share. But you can see there that the movement and power sectors are the ones that we're seeing a lot of interest in. Movement would be things like logistics services, things like drones, things like distribution, those types of projects. And then power would be all things related, obviously energy storage, electric vehicle components, energy systems related to EVs. So a lot of activity out there. Knoxville, we're kind of at a really unique time in our history, and now it's, we're trying to figure out, the community is going to grow. How do we have the best kind of growth? How do we bring in those higher wage, higher impact businesses to our community that can really kind of help us go from being a really, really good community to an amazing community. So with that, feel free to scan that QR code, whether you're an investor in the chamber or not. That's a good way to stay in touch with us. If you scan that, put your email in, and you'll get weekly emails from what's going on at the chamber, what kind of the next big thing is. Good way to stay in touch with what we're doing. So I'll stop there and shoot back to the first question. Virginia.
You were touched on Axle and how they're hiring so many young people from UT. Is there anybody else, I mean, I've heard a lot about them, that you feel like is really keeping some of these young grads here in the way Axle is, or they kind of the main one?
Yeah, Axle is doing a really good job of that. CGI is another one that's one of the reasons they came here, because they wanted a university town where they can grab those students coming right out of college. So those are two that really jump out that are doing a really good job at it. Okay. In the back.
I have some friends and people I know from Marysville who've been impacted by the Smith & Weston plant opening, and with multiple people in different locations, there was a negative vibe in their call. These people are adding car traffic and it just brought people in. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's definitely was a perception that it wasn't a positive value living there. And I didn't know if we did anything to combat that. It's probably not true, but it's definitely, I wouldn't want to hear that, oh, this company only took people from the outside and they just increased our traffic and took all the real estate. Do you do anything to like combat negative stereotypes?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's like classic land use and community relations 101. And, you know, Smith and Wesson, awesome project, you know, we competed on that one. Actually, we teamed up with the Blunt Chamber, the Knox Chamber and Blunt Chamber worked together on the recruitment of that project. And we had a site over here in Knox County, they had 2 sites actually over in Blunt County, and they ultimately won that one, but that's where like stuff like this is so important to, you know, get in front of the community to talk about economic development, because, you know, a major employer like that will have an impact and it will drive up traffic, but it's also creating jobs and, putting a lot of investment in that community and, you know, bringing a corporate headquartered brand, like a world known brand like that to East Tennessee, you know, it's gonna mean good things for other industries. Have already contacted us like, hey, we saw Smith and Wesson landed in East Tennessee, so we think we need to look around and see what's going on there, you know? And not just firearms businesses, all different types of sectors of companies. So, but it's really important, you know, in that case, when you're developing land and places for business to locate, to bring the community in and have that conversation early on. Let them know that that's what's going on. One more? Okay. In the back?
Speaking of traffic, do you have the opportunity to present things like this to PDOT or any other projects of infrastructure proactively, you know, build out ways to eliminate traffic issues before these projects get here? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, so the short answer is yes. So the TDOT is actively engaged in our infrastructure council as well as a lot of the regional, the TPO, the Transportation Planning Organization, but, and there's a project that's looking in our community right now, and I was actually reached out to TDOT yesterday about, hey, we've got this project. It may be 3 years down the road, but I'd like to talk now about, you know, potential impact. And are we gonna need a traffic signal? Or are we gonna need to widen you know, a lane here or there to accommodate that growth? So yeah, TDOT's absolutely, open to our efforts. Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask you.
All right, one more.
So you said that there was a company in Atlanta that you brought here. What is the reason? What did you tell them? Because we all want to be telling people that, so we can bring more people here, right?
Yeah, thank you. Eyes and ears on the street. I appreciate that. So in that case, it was very much about the talent. It was about finding the right space at the right time. So, you know, some of this economic development sometimes is just pure dumb luck. You've got the right building at the right time. The company's, you know, needs that amount of square footage, and that worked out really well. But we also talk about the quality of place. We talk about we're a growing community, so come grow your business with us. We talk about the climate, the low cost of living, the low tax burden. Tennessee is a very low tax burden state. So all of these things kind of factor in, and then the talent pipeline that we have with UT and Pell City and TPAD and the other colleges and universities around. So we're graduating about 25,000 folks a year into our talent pipeline from our regional colleges and universities. And it's our job to keep them here. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the update. You know,